Hello guys, welcome to RX Tutorials. This is the second part of the video for stacked bar chart. If you have been following our Python data visualization video series, check it out because I'll give the link and then you can also learn all the other videos that we've done. In this video, we are going to continue with our stacked bar chart. And in this stacked bar, we are going to solve a real data science problem. So let's write out the problem. And the problem is we are going to compare. So the problem is compare the product categories for all the years using a stacked bar. So in the first video, we learned the basics of how to plot a stacked bar. We did the vertical stacked bar, which is here, and we also did the horizontal stacked bar. So in this case, in the first video, we plotted that is two values as against a category. But in this case, our problem is to compare the product category for all the years using a stacked bar. So let's first of all comment this out. So first of all, I'll import my data. I'll first of all import my data. So I'll just assign a new data. My data is going to be, it's a CSV file. Then my file name is company, sales data of a company, CSV. So this is the data. So the data is about the sales of some categories or product categories for a company. So we have the order dates, the ship dates, the ship mode. Let me write. Let's visualize only. Let's say you want to see 10. So I just want to see only 10 rows so that we can just zoom in. So we have the ship mode, the customer ID, the customer name, the country, and then when we scroll down here, we have the sales that we did, the quantities that we bought, the discount, and also the profit. So in the first video, we compared, it was a small data, we compared the profit and the sales along the years, that is the years compared with the profit and the sales. But in this case, we are going to compare the product categories, that is the sales for the product categories for all the years. So when we check out the data types of this data or this file, we see that the data type for the order ID is being read as an object, and the order date is also being read as an object, which is wrong because I want the order date and the order ID to be a datetime data type. So we first of all have to convert the ship date and the order date to datetime. So our first problem is to convert the ship date and the order date into datetime. So how are we going to do that? We are going to use the datetime function. To use the datetime function, we simply have to specify the column that we want to convert to datetime. So let's write we specify. In this case, we want to convert the order date. Let me check the spelling. Yeah, we want to convert the order date to date time. So we are going to say that we are going to use the datetime function. name. Then we can specify the column like I said previously, and our column is going to be the other date here also. So when we run this, let me add also the ship date as well. So we can just copy, we can add this, and then in this case, we want to change the ship date also to a datetime function. So I can just only clean this. Let me run again, and then when we check the we use data.info, and then we run this, we can see that our order date and our ship date. Now, when we look at this column, which is the D type, which is the data type, we can see that for the order date, it has now been converted to a datetime function, and also our ship date has also been converted to a datetime function. So we are on the right path. And then let's move on to how we are going to solve our problem. And our problem is we are going to find the product category for all the compare the product category for all the years using a stacked bar. So to get this, we have to extract the year from our data. So how are we going to extract our year from our data? We can extract our year from our data. So we can let's add a different column, and then I'll call it year. Let me name this year. And then in this column, I'm going to say that I'm going to extract from the order date. I'm going to specify column, and I'm going to say that this new column that I'm adding, which is the year, is going to be my data, and then I'll specify the column, and I'll use datetime function here, and then I'll say that I only want the year. So I want to visualize this data. When I run this and I check the last column, you will see that my year has been added. So I call this new column year, and then as you can see, it has been named year, and then I have all my years added to my data. So our new data now contains the year because we've extracted the date or the year from the other date, which is the column that we specified above here. And so our next line of action is to group the data or to group the cells according to the years, because I've extracted my years already, so I have to group. So I'm going to use the group by function. So I'll say that my data dot group by, and then I'll open my bracket. Now specify the column so I want to group this by. So I want to group this by the year, and also I want to group this by the category. And then I want to specify that it should group this by the sales. Let's put this in bracket. It's by the sales. Then I have to specify to what aggregate function I want to sum this. And I'll say that I want to reset my index. So let's go over this line of code. This simply means that we are just grouping this data that we have added. We have added our new column, that is the year column, to our original data. And then I want to group this by the years. So I pass this into a list because I'm grouping like two categories of data. So I will have to pass this into a list. So that is why I pass this into a list, which is the year, and then I'll specify another column, which is a category. And then I want to group this. The values is going to be the sales. And then my aggregate function is going to be the sum function. And then the last line is to reset the index. So when I visualize this, let me assign this. I will assign this to a new variable, and then I'll call this new data. So my new data now is equal to this. And then when I want to visualize and I say my new data, I run this. So this is currently how my data looks like. So as you can see, my data has been grouped. The first column is the year because I specified that I want to group my data by the years, and then I specified also the category and then the sales. So all my data have been grouped into these three categories or data categories that I specified. So our next line of action is to check how we are going to plot this chart. So we have to see that to plot this chart, we have to get our product categories because we want to stack the product categories, that is furniture, office supplies, and technology. These are the three product categories. We want to stack them along the years, that is the years on the x-axis and the product categories on the y-axis. So to do this, we have to transform our data so as to get the product categories as the columns, and then the years, I'll set my year as my index, and then which will be grouped by the sales. So to use this, we have to use the pivot table function. Let's first of all import numpy. So I'll say that import numpy as empty, and then I'll specify, I'll use pandas. So let's say first of all my pd is equal to, I'll use the pivot table function, the pivot table, and then to use a pivot table, I'll specify my data, which is new data. Remember that we specified we want to transform this data, so it's no longer the data because we already assigned a new variable to the data, this data that we transformed into this. So our new data, which is the new variable, is new data. So in this case, our data is going to be new data, and then I'll say that my values is going to be my sales, and then I'll set my, let me set my index. I'll set my index is equal to, I'll specify my index to be the year, also my columns. I want the product categories to be my columns. Say my columns is equal to, and then I'll specify the columns because I want my columns to be the product category. So I'll specify the categories, which is this column. So in that case, I'll specify that my column should be my category, and then I'll use the aggregate function because I want to sum by the cell. So I'll use the aggregate function is equal to np.sum, and then I'll reset this. So let's go over this again. So this simply is, we first of all specified our data, which is this data, the new data, and then we specified our values. I want to specify the values because I want to sum by the sales. And then we set our index. So I want them to index the years as my index, and then my columns. I set my columns. I want to see my category in the column section, and then my aggregate function is equal to, I've already imported numpy as np, so it will know, so that is np dot sum. That's my aggregate function. So let's fix this. So this is going to be because, and then we have to clean this. So I just go over, so this our aggregate function is going to be the sum. So all this, we put all this into brackets. So when I highlight this, and then we are going to set our index. So let's run this. When we run this, you'll see that our data, the pivot table function has converted our data into what we specified, because we specified that we wanted to see the product categories, the columns as a product category. So as you can see, we have our product categories, that is the furniture, the office supplies, and the technology. And this has been summed or aggregated by the sales function. And then we have set our years or as our index. So as you can see, we have 2017, 2018 up to 2020, and then our product categories have been summed or have been aggregated by the sales. So we have our data in the right format. So this is the easiest part. So we will have to plot our stacked bar. So gradually, from an unstructured data, we'll be able to structure our data using the datetime function to extract the years, and also we use the pivot table function to transform our data into what we wanted. So our data is in the right format. So we just specify, the last part of this video, we just specify the plot that we want to put out. So I'll say that my table, which is the new data, remember that we have assigned new variable to our new data. So this is our second new data because we have transformed the data into this data that you see right here. So we just assigned our new data, which is a table, a new variable to this data. So what I'm going to say is that my table.plot.bar, and then I'm going to specify my axis. Then my x-axis is going to be my year. So my year is going to be my x-axis, and the y-axis is going to be my product categories, which is the furniture column, the office supplies, and the technology. So to do this, I have to pass this onto a list we've done previously. So I have to pass this onto a list. So I'll specify the column. So my first column, which is the furniture, my second column as well, which is the office supplies. You can as well copy and paste. And then my third column, which is technology. So I've specified all my data. I've specified all my columns. So I'll say that start is equal to true. And then when I want to show my plot, so when I run this, you see that I have the years, which is 2017, 2018 up to 2020. And then my categories, as you can see, my category, which is the furniture, the office supplies, and the technology, have been stacked vertically, which is the stacked bar. So you see that the axis, so we can fix the axis as well. So we can fix the axis, we add title in the labels. So let's fix the axis. I'll say that my plot, and then that's my x axis. And I'll set the rotation is equal to 0. Let's add some labels. Let's add the X label. And then my X label is already there. So just say here. My Y label. Let's copy this. And let me specify my Y. Let me specify that the Y label, my Y label is going to be my sales. And then let's add a title. Let me specify my title is going to be sales by product categories. So when you run this, you see that we have our sales. You see that our X axis have been corrected. We also have our title. We learned previously we can change the font sizes, we can change the font color, everything. You can also change the colors. You can specify if you want to change the colors of the bars. So by default, it gives us these colors. You can change the colors as well. So we've come to the end of this video. So let me take a quick recap of what we learned. We first of all started with our first video. If you haven't watched that video, go check it out in the link below, where we dealt with a small data. In this data, we plotted the sales and profit in a stacked bar. So in this case, we had two values. That is our sales and profit. We plotted it by the month. And then we also plotted the horizontal stacked bar where we changed this, the kind. And in our second part of the video, that was a problem of the day. We were to compare the product category for all the years using a stacked bar. So in that case, we first of all imported our data, and then we checked the data types, and then we converted our order date and the ship date because they were not in the correct data type. So we use the datetime function to correct this. We secondly extracted our years by adding a new column, which is the year. We extracted it from the order date. So we had our years, and then we also set our data. We transformed our data to have our years, to group the data by the years, by the sales. And then we imported numpy, and then we use the pivot table function to transform this to suit our data, to have our furniture, the product categories in the column section, and the years as the index. And then we plotted our bar. So we've come to this, we've learned a lot. So take care and be good, and then don't forget, it's really important, subscribe to the channel, and also hit the like button, share it to your friends, learn new skills every day. Check out the Python data visualization video series. It's going to be on every week, so check it out and subscribe to the channel. Take care and be good. Bye.